So, after an entertaining World Cup final, Callum, it feels a bit weird that we've got to sit down and review probably one of the least entertaining Aberdeen games we've seen in a very long time. And I know there has been a few depressing games
Mhm.
to certainly for us to speak about. But this one definitely tops the pile, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, my granddad was over visiting him today on Sunday on day recording. And he said he watched it on the TV, seen it in his 90s, so can't really go anymore. And he said that was the worst performance he remembers. So there we go. I think that just about sums it all up. It was just dreadful start to finish, really, wasn't it? I mean, I don't really know what we're going to say other than just an abundance of criticism, to be honest.
Yeah, and I suppose Jim Goodwin said that all criticism that will maybe come Aberdeen's way is due his way because it was, of course, his tactics. Now, I suppose this is going to be maybe a depressing episode for some, and obviously for those that listen on audio, apologies that we haven't been able to have the introduction music because there's been a change to Skylight's music. So with copyright infringements, we've not been able to chuck that in at the start. That's why we've just jumped straight into it as we go. But with the tactics, Callum, there was a lot of we were so close to getting it right and earning a point versus this is not how Aberdeen should be lining up against anybody.
Mhm.
And I've been stewing on this all day. And I was actually, well, obviously we weren't joined by Colin Watt, but he texted me at full time saying Aberdeen got what they deserved for playing like Livingston. No disrespect if Ewan from Talk Livy's tuning into this episode. But Callum, if we were sitting here reviewing a 1-0 win for Aberdeen, having come up against a team that played like we did,
Mhm.
on Saturday lunchtime, we would be slating that style of anti-football. So it's only right that we deliver the same sort of criticism to our own team.
Yeah, I think so. It none of it was fantastic at all. And I think the fact we didn't see any change in how we played throughout the game. At no point did we make any substitutions or tweak the system at all to even slightly go for it and be more offensive, be more positive, hit them on the counter attack. I think that also plays into it as well. I mean, had we managed to hold on for a point, I'd have been absolutely loving the anti-football, admittedly, and that sort of probably shows the fickleness of fans. But I
Yeah.
did say in the preview, you can't play that kind of game against Celtic because, well, for the whole 90 minutes, I can understand trying to get through as long as possible, but I think at some point you do have to change things because also if we do go more offensive, okay, maybe at times, we're then left a little bit more open at the back. We can also put pressure on them and force them and make them a little bit more uncomfortable. But it was awful because you knew they were going to find a way through eventually. They're too good to not, essentially. And when you're defending like that, the concentration levels required mentally and also physically when you're chasing shadows, chasing the ball moves faster than anyone can. It takes its toll, and eventually these things do happen. And okay, yeah, it was a good strike from Callum McGregor, but you just knew that it was the whole afternoon. You were waiting for them to get the
Oh
break.
yeah.
It was always coming. I'm honestly just surprised it was only one, and it took until the 87th minute, really.
Yeah, and I'm just jotting down some notes because we've kind of gone into this episode a bit unprepared, which almost feels like how Aberdeen went into yesterday's game, despite having 5 weeks to prepare for it. But it also seemed as well a little bit evident, certainly in the opening 15, 20 minutes. I know you text me at full time saying, well, that's the difference between playing some warm-up games versus certainly what we understood was, from an Aberdeen point of view, none. Because I did feel in that opening exchanges, Celtic looked that little bit sharper, that little bit more aware of what was going on. Maybe, again, from an Aberdeen point of view, down to just a bit of unfamiliarity with the tactics and the shape. Obviously, Jack McKenzie got the nod at left centre back in place of Liam Scales, which was something that we debated, of course, on the last show. And it's actually refreshing in a way, Callum, because not often we come across like we know what we're talking about. But
Never.
a lot of the points that we made on the last show seem to come to fruition. Of course, the point that you highlighted about not being able to sit in for Celtic against 90 minutes. I said we can't allow Celtic to dominate the ball, but also, picking up on the point that Celtic have created abundance of chances across their recent games and failed to take them. And Saturday had that kind of trend, obviously Celtic having 33 shots on goal, only 10 on target. But, pretty much from the second minute, I think when they had their first real chance, it did feel like a matter of time. And yeah, I was very disappointed, I have to say, with the tactics from Jim Goodwin. I can understand, and you're absolutely right, the point you made earlier there, probably about the fickleness of football fans, that we were 7 minutes, obviously with the 4 minutes injury time, 7 minutes away from probably sitting here applauding what could have been a fantastic point. But the way the cookie crumbles is not why we're sitting here doing that. We're sitting, obviously, speaking about a defeat. And are you really disappointed, though, in the way we set up, given how good we've been at home? Did you expect us to at least show some intent?
I think so. I mean, I can absolutely understand trying to stay in the game as long as possible. At some point, there needs to be a slight change in terms of actually trying to get something from the game, because the inevitable always comes, really. And when we have been so positive at home, Celtic had only kept one clean sheet in their last 5 league games, as well as conceding an abundance of goals, obviously in the Champions League too. I am disappointed. And I'm also disappointed in the fact that we did have so long to prepare for the game. And I get, Celtic's quality, they obviously make things a bit more difficult, but that in that time, our plan was just try and hold on for the whole game.
Yeah.
That is a bit of a concern for me, to be honest.
It's a concern for me as well, because Jim Goodwin came out and said, the plan was to sit in and contain the wide men from Celtic because of the threat that they carry, and that's absolutely fine. But he also said we look to sit and hit Celtic on the counter-attack. Now, as I said, we were sitting here on Sunday night picking the bones out of this, and I can only really remember 2 occasions where we hit Celtic on the counter-attack in the first half. And only once in the second half, I really remember it with Johnny Hayes bursting through. And then he kind of got caught in 2 minds on whether to pass it, have a shot, and the attack just totally fizzled out, really. Yeah. So I don't really ever feel like we did hit Celtic on the counter-attack. And I don't know whether he was playing with an injury. Obviously, he goes off later on in the second half. But if you're going to be looking to play a team on the counter-attack, you need to have both your forwards in the game. Duke and Majowski were miles apart. They were never close to each other. So when one was winning the ball or flicking on or trying to hold it up, the other one was nowhere near. The really only counter-attack came from just unleashing Duke, really. And yeah, I just think, for me, there was nobody really other than Duke and Roast, to an extent, could get pass marks from yesterday. Actually, I think Jack McKenzie as well. Because again, that was something that you picked up on in the preview. You wanted a performance from him similar to that game against Hearts, and for a position he's unfamiliar with as well. Obviously coming away with man of the match from Tawdry. Sorry to Jack there for forgetting that, but I think he also does deserve some praise. So they're probably, for me, the only 3 men that deserve any sort of praise from yesterday. Yeah,
I would agree with that. And on Jack McKenzie, especially massive credit to him, because I personally doubted his ability to play sort of left centre back, and he slotted in perfectly against the best side in the league and did very well. But I mean, mentioning the strikers there, how isolated were they? I mean, you mentioned how far apart they were from each other. The ultimate gap between them and the midfield or the wing backs as well was horrendous. I mean, I remember on one occasion Hayden Coulson tried to break forward and he was dribbling the ball, and up ahead of him was only those 2 players. There seemed to be no intent from the midfield 3 at all for even one of them to get on support with the other 2 sitting. It was ridiculous, and to expect to get anything on the counter attack when you're not committing any bodies forward is it's just unrealistic. But I do understand that they were obviously, a lot was probably taken out of them and from the defensive side, but you do need to counteract that, and they didn't make any change to have someone slightly closer to Duke and Majowski. I mean, Ryan Duncan comes on, and he plays the same role as Leighton Clarkson, and it's a role he's not familiar with at all. I don't know what he expected for that to achieve. I mean, there's a bit more size in the middle of the park, but that's about it.
Yeah. But do you think the way Jim Goodwin set the players up yesterday also maybe sapped any belief out of the players that they could go in and win this game? But was the mindset for us yesterday, the bare minimum was to come away, was just to come away with a point? We were never interested at all, management, players, in taking all three. Because it certainly felt like it.
I think so. I think that sort of comes to the point where the blame falls with Jim Goodwin, because I'm sure they would have liked to have attempted to have a little bit more of a go at Celtic. I mean, admittedly, we probably would have ended up losing more heavily than 1-0, but we might have had a shot on target. So, it swings and roundabouts, really. I think when, you've had so long to prepare and that's the game plan that your manager comes up with, it probably is a little bit confidence sapping in that you just expect to sit in and try and hold on. It was just so unbelievably negative and so not enjoyable whatsoever. And for anyone who paid a one-off price ticket, God, I feel sorry for them, because I guarantee it was far too expensive for the entertainment value they got, which was next to none.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, we drew comparisons in the preview show to what St Mirren did this season, obviously beating Celtic at Paisley, and St Johnstone running Celtic close as well. But we just never seemed to show any intent that those two sides showed. And, the man over my left-hand shoulder there, for those that are watching on YouTube, you'll know it's a picture of Alex Ferguson celebrating the league title when we beat Hibs at Easter Road. He certainly wouldn't have stood for a level of performance like that yesterday. And you're right. I mean, those one-off punters that maybe came along yesterday and paid that price would have thought, I'm not paying that again on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, they ruined Duke Day for me, guys. It was awful. It was all-round terrible day was Duke Day. So formally rescheduled for Tuesday, and we'll see how that goes. We'll take it from there. But yeah, it was just total anti-football, and it's the type of football you expect when Celtic draw East Kilbride in the Scottish Cup fourth round. Like it was awful. In fact, they would probably have even had more of a go.
Yeah, well, I actually saw, and I can't remember who it was, I saw on Twitter today that someone said, I bet Darvel show more intent against us than we do.
Well, Aaron certainly did.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, I suppose we'll just touch on it just now. Darvel, of course, coming up in January. The BBC have confirmed that tie will be scheduled for a Monday night, 7:45. Thoughts on that being moved to a Monday night for TV?
Actually allows me to be able to go. However, grim, extremely grim for travelling fans going down there on a Monday night. I'm sure they'll still enjoy themselves, given the length of journey. There'll be plenty of time to enjoy themselves, and we'll just leave it at that. But it was obviously going to happen. It was always going to be on TV, and I suppose it's either that or a lunchtime, which is still not ideal. But in terms of people working, it doesn't help. But they're trying to set it up all nicely for it's the potential banana skin tie of the round, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it'll be maybe we'll have less issues on the so-called ticket scramble that would maybe ensue, given the fact that Darvel are continuing to play the game at their home ground, the Recreation Park, which of course they are more than entitled to do, and it obviously adds to the whole glamour of the cup upset story that I'm sure will follow this. But back to the game on Saturday, unfortunately.
You have to.
And yeah, sadly. But I think, Calum, I got in the notes I said to you before we started recording, the tone was really set when Keller Rose, 8 minutes into the game, was barking at the ball boy in front of the red shed to slow it down and not rush throwing him the ball back. And clocked it straight away, and I just looked to my left-hand side to see the clock on the main stand that was only 8 minutes, 31 seconds, and I thought, fucking hell, this is going to be a long afternoon. And to be honest, I think I turned around what I thought was 20 minutes later, and it was only 14:26, and I thought, Jesus, how has it only been 6 minutes?
I think that was basically how almost everyone felt. Certainly anyone that wasn't in the away end. I think it did set the tone. Again, I can understand these kind of things if you're aiming to sort of get to a certain point in the game and then see what you can do. But ultimately, that never happened, and we'll come to that, I suppose, later on. But yeah, I mean, time waste. He didn't get booked for time wasting. We only had one booking throughout the whole game and only 8 fouls, and that's another thing that just tells you we didn't get anywhere near them at all. It's a game against Celtic at Pittodrie, and one player got booked, Leighton Clarkson, and there was only 8 fouls. Pathetic.
Yeah, and for Aberdeen trying to contain Celtic, they could have at least told the ball boys, because I remember there was a few of us in the red shed. It wasn't me that started it, despite my complaint after the Dundee United game, that when Celtic got a corner, I think around the 80th minute, the ball boy sitting in front of the away end chucked the ball so quickly at the Celtic player, I don't know who it was, that they managed to take a quick short corner and our defence wasn't set. And, you were getting to that kind of mindset of, right, we've come so far. If we can just hold on now for that point, our ball boys are doing all they can to help Celtic get in the attacks quickly. So that began to frustrate me. So if we're going to be that negative, can we at least communicate to the young kids on the sideline?
To be fair, in front of the away end, he probably got a shed load of abuse for not speeding things up quicker, I guess.
True. Kelrose, obviously mentioned there the time wasting, but he did produce a couple of good saves in the first half, especially. I think the save, I think it was from Jota, where he was very in the air for it. I felt that one was very much for the camera. Yeah, you can tell I'm going to make it as a pundit with comments like that. And then the good one down low, good strong wrist to that, and then clears it with his feet. But I do agree with Jim Goodwin that he didn't really have too much else to do in that second half.
No, I mean, a lot of the attempts were from range, and at times Celtic tried to pass the ball into the net as well, which probably helped us. But when they've got that quality, you can understand them not just resorting to sort of yakking it into the box. But to be fair, you would have thought in a game like that, he would have had a lot more to do. And had they tested him a little bit more, I'm sure the score probably would have ended up being a little bit worse. But credit does have to go to him as well for the big saves he did make. I remember one going to the near post in the second half in particular, which I don't actually know was going in, but it was. I think
his save was feet from somebody as well. Was that a bad or that one?
It might have been. The first one I know definitely was that I mentioned, but yeah, I mean, credits to him, and he has looked quite comfortable as well, certainly in terms of commanding his box at times. Too, maybe not so much yesterday, but no, he'll certainly have busier afternoons as well, which I suppose credit does have to go to the defence for that, for limiting Celtic as well, but it's more just the opposite end of the park where we really had issues.
Yeah, but I suppose on the defence, Daniel Simpson tweeted out just how well our defence actually did yesterday, and I think it is, it'll probably get lost in the fact that the data of the game yesterday, the fact that we didn't pick up the 3 points. But for what they were asked to do yesterday, and given, as we've discussed, Jack McKenzie playing in an unusual position, Matty Kennedy, of course, retaining that right back slot as well, over Jaden Richardson, they performed very well, and probably, as Daniel said, I think it was one of their best games, but were badly let down by the rest of the team not performing. The midfield in particular, I thought were dreadful. And then, as you said, the front line as well was posted missing by and large. Defensively, I thought the back three, back five, they do deserve a bit of praise.
I thought they were very disciplined, and sort of the concentration levels required as well against teams with players like Jota is obviously massive. And yeah, certainly credit for Matty Kennedy, because he wasn't playing wing back at all. It was definitely just basically a flat five with him at right back, and that's obviously not his trade. And he did do very well, but on that midfield three, I don't remember Ramadani doing anything at all. Connor Barron, I remember him sort of trying to press at times, but then it becomes so stretched because he was the only one actually doing it, so he didn't get anywhere near anyone. And Leighton Clarkson got a yellow card, then got taken off injured. That's all I remember. Oh, the free kick, that went over the bar, which was our best chance of the game, and it was still didn't even test Joe Hart. It wasn't good at all. But yeah, credit to the discipline of the defence. Unfortunately, on this occasion, we ended up with nothing. We'll probably defend a lot worse than that in games and still win. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, look at the way we defended in the Hearts game, and we won that. But yeah, no, that Leighton Clarkson chance was the one of only 2 shots we had, and we didn't even have a corner as well. at home is just incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that midfield was just frighteningly off the pace. And again, you probably put that on Jim Goodwin with the way we were set up, but it was just painful because Celtic could just ping the ball around midfield at ease. They could create that pace. And at times in that first half, especially, obviously it's easier certainly for me, to see that in the first half, given the action was pretty much in front of me, and you probably got a better view, given you're in the south in the second half. But you could just see the way Celtic were shifting us from side to side, and we just stood off it.
Yep.
And I guess I know what Jim's referring to, the fact that if someone goes, then Celtic have got the space to then pick us off. But it was just infuriating. And even anytime Celtic, I think Celtic had a goal kick or something, or a free kick for an offside inside their box, and Joe Hart passed it to Cameron Carter-Vickers, who just sauntered up to the halfway line. Yeah. So we weren't even looking to press Celtic at all in that game in their own half.
No.
The game was pretty much played in the Aberdeen half for 90 minutes, apart from when we decided to maybe pick up on the odd Celtic mistake. And what really frustrated me was the couple of times we did swing the ball into the box. I think there was a free kick out wide on the main stand side in the first half. Joe Hart needlessly came for the ball and looked really unsure.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of times when Duke got at Carter-Vickers and Starfelt, they both looked nervous. So there were signs that there was maybe some weakness in that Celtic defence, but Jim Goodwin had no intent. And as you said earlier in the episode as well, that tactics we went for could have all well been fine if we at least, and I think I discussed this with Jonathan Main on Twitter as well, it was working at halftime if the job was to contain Celtic. But let's at least, at some point in that second half, show that we want to win the game.
Even if it gets to 10 minutes to go, bring on Vinny or someone who can help plug that gap and get in support of the forwards.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned the pressing there, or lack of. I mean, on the very few occasions that Duke and Majowski did attempt to do it, there was no point because they were trying to cover Joe Hart, the four defenders, and McGregor, who's dropping deep as well, who I saw had... I don't know if it's true or not. I've not verified it. More passes than Aberdeen throughout the game. I don't know how true that is, but I saw it on social media. And if that is true, or if it's not true, rather, he must have been bloody close.
I've actually got the stats in front of me,
right?
The match stats, and we had 209 passes compared to Celtic's 853, of which 91 of ours were successful, giving an accuracy of 56%, just in case Dave's listening, because I know how much you love your data. And Celtic has 647 successful passes. So in 94 minutes of play, we didn't even complete a successful pass a minute.
That's mental. That is an insane stat. And also, another thing we'd like to mention is, I think it also comes back to the recruitment, because we've had to play Ross McCrory in defence, whereas him in midfield in that sort of game, where you've got his physicality and energy as well, would have definitely benefited us rather than, the two slighter Connor Barron and Leighton Clarkson. But hopefully that'll get addressed in January. I'm looking forward to that being around the corner, and hopefully sorting things out in terms of sort of a bit more squad depth, because although he needed to play at centre back and was part of the disciplined defence, a little bit wasted in there for me.
Yeah, and I suppose on that midfield as well, obviously the respect that we were given to Celtic, and you kind of touch on the recruitment side of things, but defensively as well, I think the ABZ guys picked up on it, the fact that Jaden Richardson was the only real defensive cover that we had on the bench. You've got young Finlay Marshall, who obviously played in Atlanta, but you also had Jack Milne. Jack Milne's, or was Jack Milne actually? No, he wasn't even in the squad, I don't think. But
no.
If Jack Milne's not even involved, what's he doing here? Will we put him out on loan? And again, like you said in the preview, local lads will know what this fixture means, but I didn't see there at any point we were going to throw in 16-year-old Finlay Marshall.
Absolutely no chance. I mean, to be fair, Jack McKenzie, local lad, and I called for it, and he did do well, so I'll take that one. But I don't know. It must have been there must have been something with Jack Milne that for him not to be included, because Otherwise, I can't see any reason not to have him on the bench.
And I would assume the same under Marley Watkins as well, because he was certainly pictured training at Pataudry this week.
Yeah.
Dante Polvara, I don't know what the hell's going on with him.
Yeah, and that was despite them saying basically Callum Roberts still getting back is the only injury concern we've got in the pre-match interview as well on Red TV. So it was just all bloody awful, really, wasn't it, Glenn?
It really was. And what was even more frustrating, as I said, I don't know if he was carrying an injury into the game or not, was Bojan Miovski, who just, for me, just looked a little bit off it. Obviously, again, I know Jim Goodwin, there was a lot of talk. I know sort of Dave Cormack in his AGM press conference saying there was a lot of scouts coming to the game. And I know there's obviously a few questions asked around Bojan Miovski and the bid. So whether, his agent's been in his ear and there was maybe, his mind was elsewhere about who's coming to watch him play, possibly affecting him, although I'm a bit concerned by how well Duke stood out with all the scouts that were there to watch as well. What did you make of the substitution to take Johnny Hayes on for Bojan Miovski? Because again, that's another tactical decision that's kind of split the fan base.
Awful, to be honest. I mean, Hayes coming on, it would have been all four parts for Coulson, maybe a bit more energy down that left-hand side when he's been, tested both physically and mentally, defensively all game. However, bringing Johnny Hayes up to basically be alongside Duke when they're both under 6 foot, Johnny Hayes particularly more so than Duke, and our game plan is still just yak it up the park and hope for the best. Awful. And Christian Ramirez probably wouldn't have offered much more. In fact, he wouldn't have had any service to do so. But when it comes to it, by the end of the game, him and Bissawin still sitting on the bench, even after their goal in the 87th minute. The only one change after that is in the 94th for Shaden Morris.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Did not enjoy the substitutions one bit. And the fact they waited so long, another 7 minutes after we conceded when there's only a few more to go, just suggests that he'd given up on it and he didn't think we were going to get anything from it. And likelihood, nothing would have changed, but give us a chance to do it when the players who've been out there are knackered and haven't been able to do anything in the previous 87 minutes.
Yeah. There's a couple of guys in front of me left. I think it was just short of just after the hour mark because they were bored out of their minds. And
don't blame them.
We had no intent of winning the game, so they went back to go and watch it in the pub. And, as soon as that ball hit the back of the net, that was enough for me because we never looked like scoring all day. So I just had no faith that we were going to even rescue a point. You mentioned the fact that both Ramirez and Bissawin remained on the bench. I would have liked to seen Ramirez come on for Bojan. I can understand why he's gone for Johnny Hayes. The fresh legs, but I don't understand it given the way we were playing. As you said, just hoofing the ball up to two guys under 6 foot. As you said, Johnny, considerably under that. The goal kick Keller Rose took aimed at Johnny Hayes and Carter Vickers went, thanks very much. I think I don't even need to jump to win this header. I just thought, what is the point? What are we doing here as fans? Because this is just... I can't even express the words. That's how much it annoyed me. Now, the point you make about Ramirez there is he might not have got the service, but my argument around Christian Ramirez was he at least provided a bit of height and a target if we're going to put the ball up. Now, my only argument to Keith around this was the Partick Thistle Cup game, because that's the last time I can remember seeing him, was when he pretty much did that. He was just there to kind of hold the ball up and feed the wingers in that game. Now, yes, we weren't really doing that in terms of getting service, but if we could have got somebody to at least with that bit of height to hold up the ball and then feed Duke or Johnny Hayes, obviously, who came on instead, but we could have, we have 5 substitutions.
Hard to believe.
Yes, we could have also brought Johnny Hayes on at the same time. You could have then used Ramirez in that sort of form to feed the likes of Hayes and Duke as well. Maybe says something about Christian Ramirez's future at the club, but I still maintain if you've got a player of that ability, you've got to be playing him. I think it's disgraceful. I know other people, other podcasts will disagree with this viewpoint, but I think Now, we obviously don't know the injury that Bojan has picked up. He obviously came off. We've got a big run of games coming up. We play Rangers in 2 days, St Mirren 4 days later, Kilmarnock 4 days after that on a plastic pitch, may I add. So it's 3 games in 8 days. We're going to need to use the squad. We're going to need someone that can provide the goals if Bojan needs to miss out on. You're not telling me we're going to go with Duke and Johnny Hayes up front.
Oh, God. I mean, even with how badly Rangers defence played against Hibs, I still think even they would be able to... well, I don't know. Maybe the pace would have caused them problems, but if we are going to play the same yak up the park game, no issue whatsoever, even for them. And you mentioned, the rotation of the squad in terms of with those games coming up. Arguably, you could argue that the St Mirren and Kilmarnock games are bigger than these two would have been, because Celtic and Rangers, although they're at home and the hope in us will say, well, we've got a chance of getting things, our league position will be more decided on our results against those kind of teams, St Mirren and Kilmarnock, and especially on the road.
Right, okay, fair point. But you look at St Mirren, who have gone and taken points against Celtic already this season. We've played Celtic twice, no points. Again, going back to, I think the ABZ guys tweeted out that we've conceded 69 shots in that game at Ibrox and game against Parkhead. That's just indefensible, literally in our case as well.
I think we've taken 7, by the way. We've taken 7 shots. I checked the stats for the Rangers game. I think we had 5 shots, 1 on target.
Yeah, what did you make of Jim Goodwin saying we got plaudits as well for that game of Ibrox, and that's why we reverted to how we did against Celtic at the weekend?
Ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. I mean, yeah, we got it shot on target and scored, but we also, I think, gave up even more shots at Ibrox. I think we 36 and conceded 4 of them. So
yeah.
I wouldn't say plaudits. I mean, yeah, we scored, we went 1-0 up, and I was giddy then. However, by the end of the game, I was not happy.
Yeah, you were not giddy, but that's the thing. It's, I said to you again before recording, it's maybe something we've got to call the episode a bit of an identity crisis. We seem to have an identity at home against the lesser sides. Yes, I'm including you Hearts. And right now, when we're coming up against the Old Firm, we have no identity. Now, Jim Goodwin spoke about referring to the St Mirren blueprint that he had when he was during his time there. Well, that's not worked. How do you then, kind of looking ahead slightly to Tuesday just now, how do you see us approaching that game? Because watching that game on Thursday, Rangers have their weaknesses defensively. Surely to fuck. I mean, please, we cannot have another 90 minutes like that.
Well, he must have learned. He must have learned from that, surely. I mean, we can all see it. Hopefully, he doesn't get too caught up on the fact we almost got a point. And I just felt like as soon as we left the game, I was like, this is going to be even more annoying when we play a totally different game against Rangers. And we actually do. I feel like we will go at them because it's Rangers, and we seem to do that a little bit more, particularly at Pittodrie against them, than we do against Celtic. I mean, I suppose it probably comes down to the quality between the two as well. Given Rangers not quite where Celtic are right now, but it'll just annoy me even more when we do that, and we do have a go, and when Duke inevitably does score in front of the red shed. It's just going to be upsetting, to be honest. Not going to enjoy it at all.
Yeah, and again, that does also annoy me as well, because again, the narrative that was coming out of Red TV from Rob McLean at full time to both Jack McKenzie and Jim Goodwin on Saturday was, we were so close to getting a point. Well, we were, but I'm not going in. And again, yes, you can look at the fact that we've not beaten Celtic at home since 2016. I think it takes us to 23 games now at Pittodrie without a win against either side of the Old Firm. But come on, man, I'm not going to Pittodrie against either of these sides wanting to watch that. I'm wanting us to at least show some intent to win the game. If we went to Parkhead and Ibrox and sat in like that, you could maybe say, okay, fair enough. Like, didn't quite work. Not when we're at home.
No.
And I think for me, that's where the frustration and disappointment sits more. Maybe just because I'm not as level-headed as some that are out there that can look at it pragmatically. But we're all different. And I think that's the beauty of football, that there will be some people that won't overreact to that result as much as others.
Yeah, that's true. I like to think I'm not overreacting for once.
We'll be told differently, I'm sure, in the comments.
Yes, exactly. And if you are commenting to tell us off, at least leave us a like on the video and subscribe, or follow us on Twitter at RTG_podcast. Thanks very much. And thanks, Glenn. Yeah, I mean, yes, we were so close to getting a point, whatever, but also equally on the flip side of the coin, Celtic could have had 4 or 5. Because not even included in the statistics for shots at goal or shots on goal was the amount of balls that went just straight across the centre of our box. That all needed was one striker to be slightly more on his toes than our defence. But thankfully that didn't happen. But it could have easily been worse. But yeah, I do also see the point where had we got a point, I'd have been absolutely loving the football terrorism that we witnessed.
Yeah, and I think, as Ange Postecoglou said, it's probably the most comfortable Celtic have been all season. And again, it's frustrating to hear an opposition manager say that, and you can't even disagree as well, because they were in total control from the first minute to the last. We never laid a glove on them. And, me and Robbie Hanratty were helping the Celtic State of Mind podcast over the weekend as part of their pre-match preview. And Robbie had picked up on the fact that we cannot let Callum McGregor dictate the play, and the fact that was his first game in 5 months, well, certainly competitive action, and we did just that. He pulled the strings for that Celtic team and then ultimately got them the winner at the end. It was just extremely painful when you were sitting calling it 24 hours beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to kind of your point about the Rangers game coming up and arguing about whether or not the St Mirren and Kilmarnock games are bigger, it's an interesting point of view, because obviously those 2 games coming up after Tuesday night are away from home. And we know, Callum, how badly we've been doing away from home. So it almost is imperative that we take some points, because pressure and opinions change very quickly in football. We were sitting here praising Jim Goodwin, giving him 7 out of 10 going into the World Cup break, sitting in third, game in hand over Hearts, which obviously is Tuesday night's game. We're now just a point ahead of them and staring down the barrel of a few bad results, and that feel-good factor and pressure, well, the feel-good factor evaporates and the pressure is right back on.
Absolutely. I think it is vital to see a far better performance. I think we will. I think the fans off the park will be far more up for it as well. At the same time, I mean, Jim Goodwin's banged on about the support he's got from the home fans this season. Didn't give us anything to shout or sing about at all. So even the fans can't be blamed for that. And which, the stadium wasn't full, but they still come out in decent numbers in what was, terrible conditions in recent weeks, and terrible football on the park. So I think the crowd might be able to push us on against Rangers a little bit more, which will play a factor. But we absolutely do need to see something better than that. I'd like to say it can't get any worse, but I've said it many times. It is Aberdeen Football Club, so it is always possible. But going into these 2 games on the road, where we've not been particularly good, St Mirren are performing pretty well. We've got their former manager, then we have to go to Kilmarnock on a plastic pitch, where they've got our former manager. Going into it with 2 bad performances and 2 defeats from these 2 games would be awful, to be honest.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. So important that we get things right on Tuesday. And just a word actually on that game against St Mirren on Christmas Eve. If you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, or certainly one of the regulars that tune into our show over on YouTube, Callum is actually going to the game on Christmas Eve. I am not. But what I will be doing is I will be doing a live reaction on StreamYard, which will broadcast live on our YouTube channel. So you will get some Don's content live after full time on Christmas Eve. So your last chance to get some Don's content before Christmas. But of course, we will put a reminder about that out after the game on Tuesday night when we review that as well. On to Tuesday then, Callum. Obviously, we're going into this, as I said, with a bit of a identity crisis, a bit of uncertainty on how we are going to approach this. Rangers, of course, coming into this game under new management, Michael Beale taking charge of his second competitive fixture after coming through a rather strange game against Hibs. Some calamitous defending, but ultimately claiming a 3-2 victory. So whilst we're maybe going in with a bit of soul searching, they're probably coming to Pittodrie in a bit of buoyant mood. It'd be quite sweet to dampen that mood.
Absolutely, it would. Anytime against Rangers, let alone when they've got a new manager. However, I mean, players look dead on their feet after offering nothing going forward against Celtic. And Rangers buoyant after a 3-2 victory, and they've had 2 more days rest. I'm not looking forward to it. I was somehow not as confident for this one than I was the Celtic one, which is annoying. But things can only get better, I'd like to think, and it'd be great to dampen their spirits before Christmas.
Oh, it wouldn't it just? But again, that point that you made about us being dead on the feet really kind of struck me during that game. Again, going back to the way we were playing on Saturday, that game will have taken a lot out of the players mentally and physically because of their concentration levels had to be just right to keep Celtic at bay. And we were basically camped inside our own half. Rangers had an extra couple of days. We've also picked up knocks and injuries to Leighton Clarkson and Bojan Miovski. Rangers do have concern over Antonio Cholak, who of course was nursing a calf problem on Thursday, but an extra day's couple rest, I'm sure he might be fine. But then again, they've got a decision to make over whether or not they continue Alfredo Morelos up top or bring back their Croatian number 9. I certainly hope they go with Morelos because we know what he can be like when he comes up against Aberdeen. Certainly at Pittodrie, if we can get him riled up and maybe losing his head, because he was at boiling point a couple of times against Hibs when it was 2-1. So what do you think we do then in terms of team selection? Obviously, Liam Scales is back, available. He's going to come back in, isn't he, despite how well Jack McKenzie played?
I think so. I don't know whether it'll be McKenzie or Coulson who does drop out, because as I said going into this game, I'd like to have seen McKenzie at that left-back slot. If we changed to 4, I don't know, given his performance, whether he keeps his place and maybe Coulson drops out. I suppose also with Coulson's injury record, games coming quick and fast. I don't know, but presumably Scales does come back in. You'd probably guess that the midfield 3 would stay the same if Clarkson's okay. If not, I'd like to see Basawin come in for this one, and he can maybe attempt to close that gap between Duke and Miovski if it is those two, or maybe Johnny Hayes, who will work very hard on both ends and also not be starting up front and having the ball punted up to him. That would be fantastic. So those are probably the changes you'd expect. Presumably continue with Matty Kennedy at right back. Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, I would be happy with Matty Kennedy continuing there at right back. And yeah, I think I agree. I was actually going to name Basawin as well to replace Leighton Clarkson until I remembered, of course, that Johnny Hayes didn't start the game. So I think we will see him start in some capacity this midweek, and probably that does come at the expense of Leighton Clarkson. Again, you've got player management to think of with the games coming up, especially if we are putting more importance onto the games on Christmas Eve and the 28th of December. Unfortunately for a lot of us as fans, this game is more important than the 2 coming up for certainly our pride. I'm really dreading going to work tomorrow with my manager, who is from Glasgow and a huge Celtic fan. So that'll be a fun Monday morning. Probably as fun a Monday morning as most of you are having listening to this, with all due respect to ourselves, given how depressing, of course, the weekend's result was. But if Bojan Miovski is not fit, Callum, does that then give an option for Vicente Basawin to come in? Or is the door open for Christian Ramirez or another?
I'd have liked to see it be Christian Ramirez. However, I doubt that'll be the case, given his sparse appearances this season. And when he has played, it's not been very, very long. I feel feeling maybe would be for City Basama. I think we maybe then lack even further height. However,
Ryan Duncan maybe knocking on the door.
Potentially, potentially. Jack McKenzie came in against Celtic, local lads. So maybe Ryan Duncan will do the same, but you never know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I think Callum, we need to be continuing 2 up top again. Well, actually using 2 up top this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And getting closer to them. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. Rangers are defensive frailty sort of throughout the season. You saw what they're like against Hibs on Thursday. Duke can terrorise anyone, on his day. Absolutely. You'd like to see what he can do, and Bojan Miovski's movement as well. You'd like to see. You'd like to think it would be those two, and hopefully Miovski is fit. I don't know whether they'll risk him if he is still carrying a little bit of a knock, but absolutely vital that we do get them into the game a little bit more, provide the service, and get midfielders, wing backs closer to them, because they can't do it all on their own at all.
Yeah, and I would also like Yilba Ramadani to have an influence in this game. In
minimum
midfield.
Yellow card.
A yellow card for a crunching tackle on any player, but number 8 would be particularly enjoyable.
Not that we're petty.
Not that we're petty at all. No, not at all. Number 15 would need to actually make it onto the pitch, but if he does,
him
as well. So
I like it.
But yeah, I suppose really that's all we've kind of got to say on the game coming up on Tuesday, because it's been a slog going back for the game on Saturday, and we do like to try and keep it to an hour, especially when it's been depressing enough. But thanks, Callum, for helping go back through that. Hope that's been kind of therapeutic.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Yeah, it has been a bit of a distraction as well. So thanks very much, Glenn, and thanks very much for everyone tuning in. I'll do a little plug for my own YouTube channel as well if you're wanting some more content to try and distract you.
More upbeat content as well.
Yes, exactly. A little bit more cheery than this one. So maybe if you want to cheer yourself up with some Football Manager content and just me being a tube, then head over there. Why not? Subscribe. Help me out.
Yeah, more of a tube than he normally is on this podcast.
Which is hard.
As Callum says, thank you very much to all of you that have tuned in either via YouTube or on audio platform, and for sticking with us after what was a depressing weekend. Hopefully this midweek can only get better, because it can't get much worse.